Pokemon Champions just released on iOS, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of start with a simpler video and kind of just go over the one-star reviews. Some of these are quite hilarious, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. Now, I am going off of the iOS version of these reviews, so I don't know what the Android versions are like, but I'm sure it's going to be just as funny. So if you are interested in those, feel free to check those out as well. But these are all coming straight from the iPhone edition here. So let's go ahead and get started here. The first one is already off to a quite the start. The first one is there aren't any male characters. Closest thing you'll get is a woman with short hair, which is not true, but whatever. Tired of these modern games constantly making everything feminine. There's no problem having female characters, but you also need male. Not gonna play as a pseudo-trans looking person. Sorry. I think that one kind of just speaks for itself. There are plenty of male-centric characters, and there's a bunch of customization options for male-centric characters. So this guy is kind of just off his rocker. So I apologize for this guy. I promise this guy is very nah. Moving on. AI bots. Unfortunately, you can tell most of these battles are bots that force you to lose so you spend money, which is not true. Just more corporate greed from Nintendo. Go figure. Heracross has 95% chance to hit, miss, and loses entire battle. 3 battles in a row. Deleted after a week. What? Heracross has a 95% chance to hit. What? Are you talking about specific moves? Because there are 95 accurate moves, but like Heracross, like Mega Horn is 80 accuracy, so I guess you're kind of right, but also like you don't have to pay any money to play Pokemon Champions. It's entirely free. You get bonuses for spending money. You get additional box space if you spend money, or additional teams, excuse me, but you don't have to spend money. I have spent money on the Battle Pass and the Starter Edition. So in total, I've spent 12 bucks, I believe. $13 around there, but I haven't spent any more than that, and I've been having a blast, and I've been collecting Pokemon as far as I can see. Granted, I am starting with a bunch of previous Pokemon games here. Like, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Legends ZA recently, so that could be like a reason I can skip a lot of the grinding, but you don't have to spend any money unless you want like Mega Floette, so there's that. PTW garbage, which I'm not really sure what PTW means, but title explains itself. Played for 6 hours to reach Ultra Ball 2, and it's a ridiculous slog. Whales can dump endless money to get every Pokemon for every meta team possible, and if you're free to play, you'll be lucky to get a decent team by the 6-hour mark. Not to mention, there's no disabling crossplay, so you'll end up playing against people who have fully built meta teams for the last 2 months. Then there's the problem of exclusivity related to other titles. One of the biggest threats in the game require over 100 hours of playtime in a completely different title on the Switch, with no way for phone app only players to access it themselves. I'd give this a 0 star if I could. This is kind of true, but mostly false. They're referring to Mega Floette, and Mega Floette you have to grind in Legends ZA all the way from Z rank to A rank in the post game, and that is a ridiculous slog, and it does take quite a while to get there. However, you don't necessarily need Mega Floette in order to win at the game. In fact, you can build a completely winning team entirely in Pokemon Champions. You just need like Charizard with Charizardite Y, Venusaur, Sylveon, who else? Sableye is a really good pick. There's a bunch of different Pokemon that you can pick solely in Pokemon Champions. In fact, I'll go ahead and post just a basic team that you can build solely in Pokemon Champions without Mega Floette. And while it is true that you'll be fighting meta teams, most of the time, by the time you reach Ultra Ball or even Great Ball rank, you'll have enough VP to spend on building an entire meta-centric team. And even if you don't want to build that team, you can just get a team replica. Granted, you have to spend the VP to get the Pokemon to build that replica team, but once you get the Pokemon in that replica team, you can just copy a replica team that people already have on the internet and immediately start using it. So you don't necessarily have to grind that hard in order to get that replica team. So this guy is right in that if you want to use Mega Floette, then you have to grind in Legends ZA for quite a while. but you don't need Mega Floette to win. I haven't used Mega Floette at all, and I've managed to hit Ultra Ball rank 2 in the first season when Mega Floette was more prominent. In fact, in the latter, you probably only see 1 or 2 Mega Floettes, and Sylveon is a lot more common and a lot more easy to use. So this guy's kind of office rocker. Okay, this one's actually really funny. This one is from Wheezing #0110, which I'm assuming is their like Discord tag, but it says add Wheezing Nintendo 1 star. You know what? Fair enough. I'll give you that one. Some of these are valid. Like this one, it says, if your opponent rage quits, you get nothing and you have to wait a long time for the game to reconnect. Don't play this here if you have a Switch or the Switch 2. The experience is much better. I have had several bad experiences with the game on the phone and almost no problems on the Switch. That's valid. If your phone isn't going to run it properly, or if your phone isn't going to have like the bandwidth or anything like that to finish it properly or to play it properly, then that's a totally justifiable 1 star in my opinion. Granted, I think that should maybe be like a 2 star, but I think that person is completely valid. This one says bored. I feel like this game is really plain and simple, and for that reason, it gets really boring when I first downloaded it. It was really fun, but then I started seeing it was just a repetitive cycle. Not anything different, no extra things you can do to have fun on the app. So I'm not really sure what they were expecting when Pokemon Champions was literally built to be a Pokemon battle simulator like Pokemon Revolution or Pokemon Showdown. Just, you know, an official Pokemon Showdown. So I'm not really sure what this guy's talking about, but go off. This one, I don't know what they mean by this, but it says, it's just battle, but you can't upgrade all strategies. I don't really know what that means, dude. Would it be fun if it were fair? The amount of things you have to learn just to beat the bots on easy mode is absolutely mind-boggling. Good idea, very poor execution. So this guy is probably new to competitive Pokemon, and while I say yes, there are a lot of things that you have to learn in order to be a good competitive player, there's not a lot you have to learn in order to start competitive. You have to start somewhere, everybody starts somewhere, and if you're gonna get frustrated right off the bat, then it's probably just not gonna be the game or the experience for you. The tutorials are very thorough in how to play the game, and I'm expecting more tutorials are gonna come out when they release more gimmicks like Gigantamaxing or anything like that. So while this person says says all of this, I really don't think this is the game for them, and they shouldn't be leaving a 1 star review for that. Oh, here's a favorite of mine. Don't even bother. Your favorite Pokemon are either missing or unusable due to meta. Only basic items, no room for creativity with intricate item combinations. Constant connection issues, app takes its time loading backups, so you're often losing turns due to poor programming or server connection. When you lose connection, the AI that takes over for you is ridiculous, using moves with no effect instead of trying to pick most viable options. A limit on the amount of Pokemon I can have and a gacha system for recruiting new Pokemon, insinuating a pay-to-win structure. Pokemon model looks just as awful as every other 3D game, lifeless, motionless animations for moves still, no single-player mode. TLDR, play Pokemon Showdown, it may be fan-made, but it's better than anything Nintendo could have ever made. So I'm going to kind of break this down one by one because I feel like this person is unjustifiably upset. I don't think their criticism is kind of fair. 1. Your favorite Pokemon are either missing or unusable due to meta. This has been a thing pretty much ever since Generation 4, when competitive really got started. It's just a thing. Some Pokemon are going to be better than others. You can't use your favorites without relying on already meta Pokemon. A lot of team builders say you can't use your favorite Pokemon, but if you want to use your favorite Pokemon, then maybe pick like 1 or 2 of your favorite Pokemon and then build a team around that, or build a meta team around that. You have to learn how to team build if you're going to want to use your favorite Pokemon. Not everyone starts off like Wolf off the bat. Like, you can't just bring in, you know, Regirock and expect it to do good when that's your favorite Pokemon and you just build around it. Heck, it took me a while to learn that. When I first started, I built a team around all my favorite Pokemon, and then I realized that none of those Pokemon are really competitive. They weren't competitively viable. Their stats are bad. Their move pool is bad. They didn't really have a place on the team. Stuff like that. Over time, I learned how to team build, and it really is a skill. It's a huge skill, and even the best Pokemon players don't team build well. A lot of pro players will rely on friends, and they will rely on a bunch of other people in order to get a team built for them to take to competition. So it's a very common strategy, even a very common practice, and very common for top players to just be like, just pick a meta team, learn how to use it, and go with it. Don't bother trying to team build right off the bat, or you're gonna lose a lot, or you're gonna build up bad habits. So that's like you're just not a team builder there. Only basic items known for creativity and intricate item combinations. This I can actually say is completely false. Not only is Regulation MB introducing a lot more items, but because there are limited items, you are seeing a lot of items that typically you would never see before. A lot of the defensive berries are being used just because you never used those before. People are using both Focus Band and Focus Sash because you can only have one item per Pokemon, and using a Focus Band can be a niche replacement for Focus Sash. So there's that. A lot of people are using the Quick Claw. There are more people using Leftovers, even though Leftovers is a competitively staple item. I feel like a lot more people are using it. You see one in almost every single team across a bunch of different Pokemon. King's Rock is being used. There's a ton of different items that are actually being used. You just kind of have to figure out a way to utilize it. So it actually, the limited amount of items that we have, in my opinion, expands the creativity. And while I wish there were some items that were available, like the Covert Cloak, or something like the seeds for terrain effects, overall, I think the limited items that we have plays way better than some people realize. Constant connection issues and losing connection, that sure, I'll give you that one just because I don't have experience with that. I play on the Switch. I don't play on my phone. A limit on the amount of Pokemon I can have, and a gacha system for recruiting new Pokemon, insinuates pay-to-win structure. Again, there is no pay-to-win. You can build a completely meta team within Pokemon Champions. It'll just take you a little bit longer. There is no pay-to-win. You can't pay to get a bunch of Pokemon. Sure, you can port in a bunch of Pokemon from older games, but currently the meta is centered around Pokemon you can already get in Pokemon Champions. You do not have to build it from other games. It just makes it a little bit faster. Pokemon models look as awful as every other 3D game. Completely subjective, but I think that's wrong. The Pokemon models in this game actually look really nice. They're very, very smooth. They're very, very detailed. And he also says lifeless, motionless animations, which is completely incorrect. A bunch of the moves have a really good animation, in my opinion. They're not as good as, like, Pokemon Battle Revolution, if you've seen that. I think Pokemon Champions has some really good animations. Like, if you use Worry Seed, the animation is really, really funny. Brave Bird looks cool. Hyper Beam is hilariously amazing. If you haven't seen Hyper Beam yet, I recommend looking at it. In fact, I'll just put I'll play a video in the background just to show you what Hyper Beam looks like, because it's so funny. Yeah, I think the animations look very, very good for what it's worth. Very subjective. You really shouldn't be putting that in an objective review, but to each their own. It also says no single player mode. This one kind of bothers me a little bit because the Pokemon Company never said anything about a single player mode. They said this was a battle simulator. While other battle simulators like Battle Revolution has had a single player mode, they have strictly mentioned, even before release, that this one is completely online double battles and single battles, so no single player. But that's something that they have outright said and stated, and they probably are likely not going to go back on that. Even if they do, it probably won't be for a while. So leaving a 1-star review for that reason is completely ridiculous. Blatant lie. Recruit 1 free Pokemon a day. 100% false. You can see and rent 1 Pokemon a day, which is completely pointless, and all Pokemon already have somewhat competitive movesets straight from Smogon, which takes a lot of the building and enjoyment out of the game. Aside from that, it's literally Pokemon Stadium, which is not a bad thing. If you actually go to receive a free Pokemon a day, it would be infinitely better. So you can permanently recruit them, literally right here. I don't know where this person said you can rent the Pokemon when permanent recruitment is literally this option. The only thing that I can think of is that they had like the permanent recruitment grayed out and they had the trial recruitment up. So not really sure where they got that idea from. Also, I would like to say the Smogon level move sets are not accurate whatsoever. Let me go ahead and go to the box example here really quickly just to show you what I mean. If I go here, who in their right mind would give this Semi-Sage Belch? Why would you even use Semi-Sage in the first place? I did not mean to quit out of that, but why would you even use Semi-Sage in the first place? Like, same with this. It's like, sure, I guess you could use Grass Knot on Mr. Rhyme, but that's not a particularly common move. And then again, same with this trial Pokemon. No one uses Brutal Swing on Steelix, so I'm not really sure what this person is talking about. And then, like, on the Slowbro, you have Scald, Thunder Wave, Flamethrower, and Imprison. Nobody's going to be using that in a semi-Smogon competitive moves. All right, we'll go over a couple more here. This was my favorite. I think this was my favorite. It's too much story. There's no story. And when you click to skip, it asks, are you sure you want to skip? Every single time that it asks this. So I barely got to play because it was so much story in the beginning. Maybe it gets better as you play more. I didn't have the patience to find out. There's no story whatsoever. It literally is just the in-game characters saying like, hi, I'm so-and-so, this is where you battle, and that's it. Or it's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, here's a reward for reaching X rank. And that only plays at the very beginning and like once a season. That is genuinely all you see. So this person is just completely wrong, and I don't know where they got that information from. Also, it's too much story. Like, what are you expecting from... Besides Pokemon Champions, what were you expecting from a Pokemon game that is an RPG that has a particular focus on its story for most of the time, since Generation 5, really? I don't know. Okay, this one is going to be the last one, because this video is already getting a little long, so this one's already going to be the last one. Worst game I've ever played. I pre-ordered this game with excitement as soon as I saw it was coming out. I adore Pokemon games and have played since I was a kid. Disappointment doesn't begin to describe my feelings. I hate this game. I'm good at games. I play all sorts like this. This game makes me so frustrated. It is ridiculous to play because one bad matchup and it sets you back to the point where after over a dozen beginner ranked fights and I can't get above rank 4. The game needs some serious work. I'm deleting it. If you value your time and sanity, do not get this game. Watch paint dry. It'll be so much better. Skill issue?